Hello, Brigadiers and Brigadettes and hockey fans alike. This is your captain speaking. Welcome to my channel. Now let's jump into some hockey content. Hello everybody, happy Monday, and here we are talking about the video for today, which is 5 NHL coaches that are on the hot seat in my eyes. So before we start, obviously please like and subscribe, and then also, not all these things are certain, but these are my coaches that I wanted to talk about. The first coach we'll be talking about today will be Mike Sullivan of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So Mike is definitely the most decorated coach out of this list when it comes to championships, things like that, and he'll always be remembered for those back-to-back Stanley Cup championships in Pittsburgh when they won in 2016 and 2017. Things have definitely changed though. The team obviously has not performed at that championship level in the past 3 years. In 2018, the Capitals ended up losing to the Penguins lost to the Capitals in the second round in, I believe, 6 games. That was the year that the Capitals finally purged their demons, and they ended up beating the Penguins. Everybody was shocked, including myself. And then the next year, in 2019, that was a major upset when the New York Islanders, the Baby Islanders, ended up, I think it was in Barry Trotz's first year. Yeah. Ended up upsetting the Penguins and sweeping them. That's when I thought Mike Sullivan was going to get fired right then and there, but he didn't. And then last year, obviously, you have the Penguins getting upset by the Montreal Canadiens and losing in the qualifying round, which a lot of people say that if you lost in the qualifying rounds, you didn't make the playoffs. So a lot of people would say that the Penguins' playoff streak ended. Now, Penguins fans, you probably don't know it because you're probably new to the channel, but I really don't like the Penguins, and I hate them. Probably like one of the biggest Penguin cynics there are. But I would say that you guys did make the playoffs because your record was really good before the break, even though you lost to Montreal in the qualifying round. So I'm defending you, shocker. I don't think that Sullivan is a problem here, though. It's a team lost some pieces in free agency after their cup runs and can't seem to find a goalie to stop the puck. And then also you have to consider that the Penguins are getting a new GM because Rutherford is leaving for personal reasons. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe he'll be a guy that gets replaced. So if you have a new GM come in, maybe they think, oh, we want our guy. And, you know, the Penguins are kind of average right now. They are 5-1. And I think the only thing that really saves Sullivan's job this year is whether or not they can win a playoff round. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the second coach we'll be talking about hits a little bit closer to home, and that is the Vancouver Canucks coach, Travis Green. So the Canucks are currently one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to allowing goals. I think it's going to keep continuing as a trend. It's a shame, too, since the season showed so much promise last year when we beat Minnesota in the qualifying round. We ended up beating St. Louis in the first round in 6 games. And then we took Vegas to 7 games, but a lot of that was Thatcher Demko, doing Thatcher things. As a Canucks fan, I'm going to be honest, Travis Green is not the problem here. He's never really had a super talented team to work with. Now, I know people are going to say that this team's really talented, and that's true, but it's very top-heavy. This is not an evenly divided team. So, I don't think he's exactly the problem. Obviously, yes, the team does have talent, but they've got a lot of players that don't want to play defense, and they can score, but the problem is they're allowing so many goals that it really doesn't matter. Vancouver just can't win against teams that aren't the Senators, and that's an issue. And I think the real thing that we have to talk about here is a lot of this comes down to what's wrong with the team is GM Jim Benning's knack for bad free agent signings. Really, for a long time, he's just had a few bad deals where he will sign bad contracts. And I don't know why he thinks that these deals will pan out, but he seems to always think they will. And it's really the reason why we couldn't keep Tyler Toffoli or Jacob Markstrom in the offseason because of these bad contracts. And that stinks because I think we'd be in such a better spot if we had Markstrom there, Demko learning from him, and then Toffoli also there, scoring goals, providing two-way value. I think it'd be huge. So, in sports, the reason why I think Travis Green is on the hot seat and will get fired possibly by this season or the offseason is, who goes first, the GM or the coach? It's a coach, and Benning will definitely fire Green in order to get the heat off of him. And it's just sad for Green because he'll likely get fired because of Benning's his fetish for bad contracts. Now, the third coach we'll be talking about here is Owen Tippett of the Edmonton Oilers. Tippett hasn't even been the Oilers coach for 2 seasons, but his time in Edmonton could be done sooner rather than later. Tippett was a major part of the Oilers' turnaround last year as they had 83 points in 71 games played. Obviously, he was a major boost as a head coach as Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were there. That was obviously really nice for him to have. If you have 2 players that can put up 100 points easily, you're going to be in good shape. And he's got other skilled offensive players. But the team is off to a slow start this year. Couple that with the fact that the Oilers got eliminated by the Chicago Blackhawks in the qualifying round. And I think the pressure starts to amass a little bit because people will start screaming that aren't even Oilers fans. You're ruining McDavid's prime. You're wasting McDavid's years. This is true, but one thing that's always fascinated me with that is the fact that people always say that, but they don't look at, what's the big picture here. And that's it. You've had multiple coaches come in and out of Edmonton, and it's not always all on them. It's definitely not all on them. It's on the Edmonton franchise for wasting McDavid's prime years. And the blame falls on a lot of people's shoulders. You can't just say, oh, Tippett is the guy. So Tippett does remind me a lot of Travis Green in the sense that he's got a very top-heavy team that's not skilled defensively, that's got a lot of holes. And I think that's going to be a trending thing. The goalie situation is a disaster. It'll probably continue. And not having Oscar Klefbom this year to a shoulder injury really hurts. Klefbom is a two-way defenseman that's a shot-blocking, minute-munching machine and was a huge loss for the Oilers, and it shows this season. Because of expectations put on, because he has McDavid on the team, I could easily see Tippett getting fired this offseason if the Oilers miss the playoffs, because somebody's got to take the heat, right? And management is not going to be the type to allow the pressure to come onto them. So yeah, I think Tippett could very well get fired by the end of this season if they don't make the playoffs. Now, the fourth coach that we're talking about here, this one is, I think, pretty hot of a hot seat. That is Jeff Blashill of the Detroit Red Wings. Is it snowing outside? No. And one of the things that I really want to say is he's really got the short end of the stick here, as years of playoff success by the Red Wings led to them doing all the things you shouldn't do, paying older guys, trading away pieces in order to try to be competitive. And Blashill was given the reins of a team that was old and lacking in a lot of deep prospect talent, and that's kind of when the wheels fell off. Now, the Red Wings playoff streak ended under his tenure, and it seems that he'll constantly draw the ire of Red Wings fans because of this, but you have to realize he was handed a team that was going to be headed for disaster within a few years. Blashill was given a boost by GM Steve Yzerman, and he said that he supported Jeff and was not going to lay him off due to the team that he was having to lead. I believe in an interview, Steve said something along the lines of, he was given this team that obviously had a lot of flaws, so I'm going to give him some time while we build up this roster. The only problem is that Red Wings are 3-8-2, and last night they just ended an 8-game losing streak. I believe they beat the Panthers last night 4-1. The Red Wings are a team that's lacking in a lot of talent right now, but I think for many obvious reasons, Blashill's time in Motown could come to a close. I've always said that a coach forced to lead a team through a rebuild should be given an opportunity to try to coach the team once the prospects arrive. They've got some more talent, they get some decent free agent signings. I don't know if that'll happen in Detroit. And I think it'd be a shame for Jeff, just because, really this team has had a lot of flaws. This is a one-line team in a lot of people's eyes, where with Bertuzzi, Mantha, Larkin, that is their top-heavy line, and after that, the scoring can drop off a lot. So, this team is definitely not a juggernaut by any means. So I get that obviously they wouldn't want to keep a coach that they feel like couldn't do well with prospects in the near future, but my question is, why would you be leading him, having him be the coach for 6 years, if you didn't have a lot of faith in him for your prospects when you've had, obviously, some younger players come in his system? Just some food for thought. But yeah, he'll probably get fired by the end of this year, would be my honest opinion. And then the final coach we'll be talking about here is a wild card, but hear me out. So, John Hynes of the Nashville Predators is very similar to Dave Tippett in the sense that they both haven't even been coaches for 2 years of their respective teams. The thing is, I can tell you right now, if the Predators miss the playoffs, I can absolutely see Hynes getting fired, and here is why. The Predators are a team that's got a decent amount of talent. I think that's pretty fair, but for some reason they just keep underperforming, and it's starting to wear down, I think, on ownership's patience. There's been rumors that the only GM in Predators history, David Poile, is potentially on the hot seat, and this is where Hynes getting fired really gains traction in my eyes. If you have a GM that is on the hot seat like Benning in Vancouver, who do you think is going to go first, the GM or the coach? It's going to be the coach. And with Poyle really grasping at straws here, this is the GM job that he's owned since the Predators have been in the league. Do you think he wants to leave this position that obviously he's been in for, how long have the Predators been around? Over 20 years now? Do you think he wants to leave that? No, he wants to stay there. So what happens when people start grasping at straws? They will do anything and everything in order to try to keep their position of power. And I'm not saying that obviously David Poyle's a bad guy or anything like that, but I do really believe that he will definitely fire Hines if it would get some pressure off of him. So if ownership started to bear down on him and say changes have to be made, he'd say something along the lines of, oh, there will be changes, and I will fire our coach in order to see if we have a better fit, which would obviously be a little interesting. Maybe it would buy him some more time. Again, I'm not saying that Poyle's a bad person by any means, but in any situation, if anybody is doing something like this to where they are trying to stay in a position of power, they're probably going to do what they have to do in order to stay in power. And Poyle will likely do the same, and that would be interesting because it would be the fourth coach in 9 years for the Nashville Predators after what was previously a very stable time, obviously, where they only had like 2 coaches within the first, I don't remember how many years it was, but it was quite a stretch. So obviously there could be change coming to Nashville. These are my 5 NHL coaches that are on the hot seat. Let me know what you think. Are there other coaches? There definitely are. I can only cover 5 in this video in order for it to be able to work time-wise. But anyway, everybody stay safe, have a great day, and stay away from COVID, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes, and hockey fans in general. This is your captain signing off. Have a great week.